to Stitches in Time, the podcast discussing Doctor Who the way it was meant to be watched, in chronological order, one clip at a time, starting at the Big Bang and ending with the heat death of the universe. I'm Becca, the Matrix archivist, and I spent the last 12 years of my life meticulously editing the entire televised Doctor Who universe into chronological order.
And I'm Mandy, and I haven't been to a museum in years, which was something I was sad about, but this made me feel like maybe that's a good thing.
That is incredible and true. Like, you never know when you're going to get caught up in a revolution for the fate of your planet.
90% of the time I go to a museum, that happens.
Oh.
And this other voice on the recording, you know him from the Double Clicks. You know him as Laser the Boy, as a recording artist. You know his theater projects, A Shark Ate My Penis and Teaching a Robot to Love. Please welcome Laser Weber.
Hello, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, it's an honor. I'm sorry, I'm recording from my bedroom because my girlfriend's also recording a podcast right now in the living room.
That's so mean.
Who
of
could
her.
it be?
I don't know. She says she has this podcast where she watches Doctor Who in the, quote, right order, but it actually kind of sounds terrible the way she's doing it.
I think that sounds great.
Yeah.
But of course, there is only one right order. And she's probably doing it wrong. She probably doesn't know what she's talking about. She's probably a fake geek girl.
It's possible.
Can you mansplain Doctor Who to us?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for bringing us on. So, Doctor Who is a show about a man who's always right and doesn't have to explain himself, who likes to yell at young women for doing normal things.
Now, what happens when that man is a woman? Sometimes that man is a woman.
Oh, that's true.
When she's a bit shrill, I'll be honest, but thankfully she isn't given too much power or too many episodes, so that's fine.
Oh no! You sound so much like a Doctor Who YouTuber. You're too good at this.
I was told to mansplain. I could do a real mansplain for Jodie. It's like, listen, I really wanted to like her, and I gave her a chance, but just the writing, and I just couldn't get behind her as a character. Like, why did they dress her like a man? You know what I mean? If she's gonna be a girl, she might as well like be a woman, right? I don't feel like they even addressed that in the show enough. That kind of thing.
If you're going to have a woman as a doctor, I have to know what her cup size is.
This is my main problem. I just feel like it would be a lot more feminist if she had less layers.
Last week, I was wearing a Star Trek shirt to the office, and somebody at work was like, "Oh, I like your shirt. It reminds me of Star Trek." And I was like, "Yeah, that's because it is." And so he was asking about Star Trek and which one I liked. I was like, "Oh, I like Voyager," and he was surprised by that. And I was telling him how it was a series that everyone would say, "I don't like Voyager." Mandy, I really feel like you would like Voyager. And I didn't understand why, but now having watched it, I'm pretty sure it's because of women. And I watched the math in his head of like, you think that I'm thinking in like a girl power feminist way, and I'm talking in a I like women way.
Yeah, no, there's some hot chicks on that shit.
Yeah, like I don't remember the content of most of the episodes, but I do remember them as like, oh, the episode where Janeway wore a sleeveless top.
And I think that you're right. Well, you're also you're a fashion person. So I feel like you could say that that's the reason also.
Which is great for an audio medium.
I feel like that's also true of your reactions to Doctor Who. You react mostly to what people are wearing first, and then like, plot and story are
which
secondary.
Definitely made this an episode.
Oh my goodness. Yes, so today we're talking about the Space Museum.
And here we are, face to face with the fourth dimension. You know, I think the TARDIS jumped a time track and ended up here in this fourth dimension.
Parts 2 through 4, and then part 1, because this is it's really the first time that the show gets into like being timey-wimey in an episode.
And it's great because I love all the times that they are so worried about interfering with the future. And I'm like, babes, you're doing that all the time. You're always doing that. Why do you care now? You're always messing up and granted, we are technically always doing that. We just don't have the foresight and we don't know what we're messing up yet. But if I got hit by a bus, that was definitely going to mess with the future of you recording this episode. So I had to go about my day being like, I can't interfere with the future by getting hit by a bus.
What a deeply stressful way to think about life.
Yeah, I have an anxiety disorder.
Wait, really?
I had a therapist tell me that I was kind of like the Joker, where the whole like Joker's thing of like, oh, everyone's one bad day away from being the Joker. I had a therapist tell me I was one bad day away from having an obsessive compulsive disorder.
Wow. I was hoping that your therapist wasn't telling you that you were like the Joker, because that would be. I mean,
I have some bad news. You're a serial killer.
You really remind me of the Joker. Is that weird?
Bad news. That blue hair dye is not working well for you. That color has faded, and it is green now.
Been there. We've all been there.
So yeah, what did we all think about this episode? First impressions, last impressions?
This was my first introduction to the companion Vicki, who I've never heard of before.
Oh.
I just know her, like, I guess she's just another Susan. They got rid of Susan and then got another Susan, I guess. I was kind of confused as to who it was. But then, toward the latter half of it, she does the shrillest scream. And so then she became my enemy because I had to listen to that with headphones on.
Ooh.
And I can't tell you a lot about what happens in the latter end of this other than I want this woman dead.
I mean, I couldn't tell the difference between the shrill screaming and the sound that the ray guns made.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a ray gun? I thought it was her the whole time.
There was a lot of ray gun firing, and it was like really obnoxious sounding.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the issues with old Doctor Who, is that the sound mix is not made to be pleasant to listen to.
Yeah, there is also a bit when they're going through the museum and Barbara's like, oh, this museum is so weird because if you don't listen, everyone be quiet. And if you're quiet, you can't hear anything. And what you hear is
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of noise.
The sound of 60s television.
My initial reaction to this episode, this is like my main takeaway, but I'm gonna blow it early, is this is the reason I do not like the first Doctor, is because he does a lot of not telling people what's going on and then being a little scamp about it in a way that I do not find endearing. I would just slap him in the face. Like,
No.
You know what's happening. Just fucking explain it to me. Which is the thing I love most about Ncuti, like the current Doctor, is that he will always answer questions, and he will always tell people what's going on. And that was like, at first I thought that was just how they were writing the Doctor, and they do like explain it later on, and he does a little cheeky giggle of like, oh, it's not that hard to explain, or whatever at the end. But if I were Ian Chesterton, who I am not, I would have clocked him. Like, I just your little vampire ass bow and your cape and shit. Like, I understand you're an enigma, but like, just tell people what's happening. You know.
I did write down as one of my notes for this episode that the bit which we rewound to watch again when Lacey and I were watching it was the bit where the Doctor's escaped from I think it's the Morocks, and it just pans over to the Dalek, and he opens the Dalek and just like chuckles. And his face is so smug, like it literally reminded me of the Leonardo DiCaprio like smug face meme. Like,
so this invites what was maybe my main complaint of this segment. I don't know what to call because it's several episodes, this segment of Stitches in Time,
Mhm.
which is they kept on talking about, like, we have to make sure you're not caught by more rocks. And oh no, more rocks what find us. I wasn't seeing any rocks.
And that's a good point, Mandy. And that's something that maybe we should write to the BBC about.
Like, why are we fretting about more rocks when I haven't even seen a rock?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good
All
point.
I'm seeing is some drag kings who have maybe they figured out how to like cover their eyebrows and do drag brows,
Yes,
but
yes.
they haven't quite worked out the rest of it. And then people who were a little too invested into their Hair Club for Men subscription.
Yes, yeah. A lot of Doctor Who, like, all Star Trek aliens are just, we did a little something with the forehead. And all Doctor Who aliens are, we did a little something with the hair. That's,
Yeah.
it's like, it's all aliens are basically the same guys, but with or without a bald cap or wig.
They have to be able to wear pants.
Yeah.
They have to wear like just a regular standard outfit.
I have zero energy to do this, but to look into how many of the aliens are just recycled actors every episode, I'm sure there are tons in the first few series of this show. But it's just like, I love an alien who's just clearly just kind of a guy. Like, I absolutely, like, we just got a bunch of guys that all kind of look the same. We put them in little outfits.
I may look that up for next next episode.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing with why I love old era Cybermen, particularly when it's like they got a guy with a bit of a pouch.
Yes.
And like they're just like, oh, this is like a 45-year-old British guy who's like, oh, the pinnacle of the Cybermen have really like enhanced, and they have the perfect perfect specimen, and the perfect specimen is just a slightly chubby dude.
I mean, I love that. I love that back in the day that you could be older, quote older, you could be over 25, or you could be over 200 pounds and be allowed to be visible on television. Like, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I'm never wrong. And you
Oh,
know
yeah.
this.
You're a man, I forgot.
So at the beginning of this serial, which I know is not really the beginning of the serial, but the last episode of the serial, chronologically, the first one they aired for some reason.
For some reason.
They land at this place, and they're all talking about how they changed clothes, like they magically changed clothes in the TARDIS, and to me felt like they just like had to return the costumes from the previous serial and didn't have time to get new ones or something, and the Doctor is not explaining it. So I'm curious, like, how long has Ian been on the TARDIS? Like, how long have they been doing this journey where he still has some fundamental questions about what's going on?
I mean, according to Stitches in Time, I've seen him one other time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. And they did change clothes in that episode, which we discussed at length when we talked.
Yeah, because they were just wearing weird robes. I did have a lot of like this episode didn't make a lot of sense to me, again, because they were constantly talking about like, oh, we can't mess up the future, even though that's what they're doing the entire time. But they also kept on being like, oh, we don't want to get turned into dummies. We don't want to get turned into dummies, which is a reference to the Toymaker bit that we saw earlier, which happens later, but we sure saw it.
Yeah, we saw some anthropomorphized puppets.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they would be afraid of not wanting to turn a dummy, because they saw that one guy who got turned into a dummy and he wasn't having a good time.
I asked him to stop. The giggle. And he said, I will stop if you play my game.
And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, but that happened with the 14th Doctor, and so the first Doctor doesn't know about that yet. But we also had that one episode where River Song carved that message into a rock.
There's a cliff of pure diamond, and according to legend, on the cliff there's writing, letters 50 feet high, a message from the dawn of time. And no one knows what it says, because no one's ever translated it. till today.
And that also happened previously. And so I'm convinced that the doctors are just writing little notes to themselves in rocks. And that's what global warming is.
Maybe that's what they meant by more rocks. Look out for more rocks, more messages from my past self or my future self.
Man, don't be a dummy.
I love the idea that the doctor is just like peeing in snow to leave messages for his future self, and by doing that, he's like melted the ice caps because he keeps going back in time so many times.
It's pretty good.
Well, I'm really glad you're watching it in this horrible order then, because then you get this kind of insight you wouldn't otherwise get.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know how this would make sense otherwise.
It's true. It's true. I did write down the first doctor talks like someone who suffered severe brain damage the last time we saw him, which he did.
There's a lot of, like, in fairness to him, there's a lot of people. So the drag kings, and I guess this is time for me to Mandy-splain the bit. I've already done it a little bit of like, okay, they're worried about the toy maker, and so they don't want to become a dummy, and they're wandering around this museum. And then there's, I guess, two factions. There is the hair club for men.
Yep.
And they have really extreme widow's peaks because they just got like really too into finding their new hairline.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the drag kings. And the drag kings, I think, are the good guys.
The
but
drag
also,
kings are revolutionaries, just for anybody who hasn't seen this, and the Hair Club for Men guys are the archivists of the museum, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like the empire that's taken over the planet and been in power for a while, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, like drag kings, revolutionary. Pride is a riot. We get it. But there's a bit where the doctor and the companions are trying to leave the museum, and the drag kings are following them, and they're like, "Oh, we saw them pick up weapons. We don't want to get shot with the weapons. So, oh, we know the best way to handle this, to make sure that they know that we're allies. We're gonna kidnap one of them."
Yes.
And then tell
Yes.
him, "Yeah, we're cool. 'Cause see, we just kidnapped you."
That makes so much sense.
Well, that's all very well, but how do we know they're friendly? They might shoot us on sight.
We'll have to try and make contact before we show ourselves.
How?
Well, capture either the old man or the girl. We can explain and let them introduce us to the others.
It's such a perfect plan. I loved this plan when they said it. As like, we'll take the woman or the old man, and then they'll know that we're good guys because we kidnapped the... Don't worry about it. My eyebrows look great. It's truly a perfect plan, and it doesn't work because whatever escapes before they're able to explain the plan to them.
Yeah, it's like the doctor hides in a Dalek.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't see him get in there, and I really feel like that's a missed opportunity. If I just wanted to see him trying to shove himself in, and also having to check, like, hey, was there a squid in there to begin with?
Yeah.
It was fun to hear him do a Dalek impression, though.
He was having the best time.
We see the Dalek later in the deleted timeline, and there's no squid in that Dalek.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't confirm anything because we saw the doctor earlier be in it, and he might have taken the squid out.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I'm Squid Watch 2024. Where's that squid?
And the squid is what you call the inside of the Dalek, which is correct. But
There's the Dalek part, and there's the squid part.
there's the Dalek part and the squid part, and the squid part powers the Dalek part.
And then there's Davros, who is their mommy.
Davros, who is Mother slay, Mother take no crumbs, whatever. Yeah.
I really like that as they're just going back to like them explaining the plan before they enact it. And I think this is true of like all 60s Doctor Who, is everyone in the show is Rick O'Lee from The Phantom Menace, where they're just like explaining the exposition. I wrote down...
The entire city is a planet.
The shields are back up.
Oh, the entire planet is a city. I said it wrong. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So I wrote down this quote. I know the Morlocks have ray guns and we're unarmed, but like,
Yeah.
No, nobody in the room doesn't know that.
So after the doctor hides in a Dalek to make the drag kings think that he's gone off somewhere. He then does go off somewhere and then finds the Hair Club for Men people. And that interaction, like, did they film that separately? Because it opens, the Hair Club for Men guy is like, tell me your name. Oh, you're not going to talk, with exactly 0 pause in between.
Yeah.
No moment. And they're talking over each other. Like, was that filmed separately for some sort of effect that does not read on camera in any way, shape, or form?
Seeing the documentary about the first Doctor and the creation of Doctor Who really enlightens a lot of this show of, like, he's just so old. They have no time to shoot anything. I'm sure they aren't there for the other person's coverage because they have to shoot it at totally different time. Like, and there was a point where watching the old Doctor Who is so hard for me because it's so boring that my brain starts doing something else, and so I miss what's happening, and we have to rewind.
Yeah, and then a woman is shrieking.
Yeah,
that was a ray gun. The 2 genders, woman and gun.
Tag yourself. Yeah, there was a point when I was trying to figure out the revolutionaries, like, if they had distinct personalities. Like, this one's worried about something. Remember this, Becca? I was, like, trying to get you to figure out who is the worried guy and who wanted... But they were all arguing every point in the same conversation. Like, it felt like they hadn't picked a side at all, and it was... so difficult to watch.
Well, an easy way to write a script and pad a script out so you can have 4 episodes on something that really would have been max 2 episodes.
Yeah.
It's just have everyone argue the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or have the Doctor just go, wait a minute. I'm going to solve it.
So if you
yes,
got trapped...
Yes, I'm going... Sorry, continue.
If you got trapped in a museum and put on as an exhibit, what museum would you like to be an exhibit in?
Ooh.
I thought you were going to ask what I was going to do, and then I was going to say, well, clearly I have a sweater that I can bite through to get the threads, which is a thing. Ian Chesterton was like, yeah, I got this. I'm going to bite through a sweater.
He knows how knitting works. I don't understand. What's the problem?
Yeah. And be like, hey, do you want a lot of little threads? Do you want a lot of little pieces of yarn, which are mostly going to be in your mouth?
Did you want a thread or just 2 halves of a sweater?
Is this what Weezer was singing about?
Yep. This is a song that Weezer's song is actually written for this episode.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense.
Can you make us that fan cam, Becca? I'll
do my best.
An Ian Chesterton and Barbara fan cam. He passed away. You got to do it. Rest in peace.
Yeah, that's true. As of this recording, Ian Chesterton, William Russell passed away like 2 days ago.
As of future recordings, who knows?
Maybe he'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
But to your question, my this isn't a good answer, but my immediate answer was, so when I moved out to California because I was going to school out here, and so my mom and we checked out schools, and then we also checked out other places. Like, one of them, we went to LACMA, and when we went to LACMA, one of the exhibits was this kind of like, you walk through and there's a bunch of Christmas trees. But the Christmas trees are weird, and there's like blood and stuff on them.
Oh,
and then there's a bunch of photos of a Santa Claus, and he's kind of drunk and dirty. And I think he castrates himself. I think that's what it was implied. And I don't think that's the right answer. I don't think that's an answer that I am getting out of that museum. But it sure was my first answer.
All right. Yeah. Self-castrating Santa Claus in a horrible... Yeah. Murdered forest of Christmas trees.
It's art.
Bex, do you have an answer?
I was gonna say the Natural History Museum, just so I could be just like a bunch of bones that transphobes are always talking about digging up, and being like, this person was a man, as if that's like chief amongst my concerns right now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't care what people do to me in 20,000 years. I'm not gonna be around for that. So yeah, I would, if I were trapped in a museum, I'd want to be long dead.
That is the ideal.
What about you?
Well, I feel like being frozen like the people in this movie hasn't been said yet. Movie? This is a movie, right?
Yeah, sure.
This is how movies get made.
Mm-hmm. So if I were frozen as a person in a museum, there's this really incredible museum that I played a bar mitzvah at in Dallas, Texas, and it's great. It's in a former prison. And they have only the exhibits they could afford or were donated to them. So there's a room of dinosaurs, all of varying levels of scientific accuracy and scale. Some of them just like straight up
got a pile of bones and Legoed them together.
Yeah, well, there's like they're not bones even. They're just like figures. There's like some that look straight up like a Land Before Time kind of dinosaur situation, and some that are like hyper accurate. And I would like to be in there, just kind of like posing like a dinosaur. Like
I need to clarify. Did you go to a museum or a putt-putt course?
Oh shit. Okay, hold on.
All right.
Yeah,
new question.
Golfing.
If everyone had to be trapped as an exhibit on a mini golf course, what would you be?
I want to live in the windmill. I love those windmills, and they just seem like the most fun. I've thought about it for a long time.
It's a solid answer.
And I would capture people's balls when they go into the windmill, and I would never let them out.
I like, you know the courses where you have to get it into one hole and then it shoots out of a different hole, and that's how you get it. I want to live in that in-between hole.
Nice.
And only sometimes I'll let it out.
That's a good answer. I would live in the castle. There's always a castle at these things.
Yeah.
I would either live in the castle or sometimes just hang out under the little bridge that you have to get the ball across in order to get it down to Mandy.
Perfect.
Yeah. Can we talk about, there's a moment while the doctor's being interrogated and they hooked him up to that brain analyzer, brain reading machine. He's like confusing them with a bunch of images, and one of the images is just a man in a top hat and a bodysuit.
It felt like it was current. It felt like a current clown show that I would go to tomorrow.
I really did.
That's the Hat Man. That's the Benadryl Hat Man.
I hope the Hat Man comes back in future episodes of Stitches in Time. God, I hope that's alluding to something.
I don't like seeing a morph suit in the 50s. I feel like that's wrong, but it looks exactly like a morph suit. And I'm just like, how did this happen? I guess these existed earlier than I expected.
Yeah.
This is a good question, because I don't know when stretch fabrics and Lycra. I used to know this information.
If that's not stretch fabric, I feel very bad for that man and the seamstress.
Okay. 1958.
Okay.
Is what? Okay, so they had access.
I love that it was not really acknowledged by either the doctor or the man interrogating him, that he just like popped out this image from what I assume is deep in the doctor's subconscious.
His sexual fantasies about Hat Man.
Doesn't like Barbara bump into him later? Like she just goes through a thing and the same morph suit guy is there?
Wait, does she? I completely missed that if that's true.
It's hard because it was like them just going through random rooms and finding things to be afraid of. But I feel like that was one of them.
That is much of 60s Doctor Who.
Which was like, yeah, the museum guy was like, okay, yeah, sure. I guess this is what they do. This is accurate. Put it up. And they worked real fast. He also spent a lot of time trying to convince them that we were amphibians.
Yeah, he was just like, here, look at these seals. And the first thing that the Morok says to him is like, but you're not a seal. How can you be from this planet? Like,
Wait, if it's a seal, why did he say there were amphibians? He was like, those are amphibians.
that's true.
They're not very good scholars. They're trying, but they're not good at it.
So this is kind of like the Christian museums where it was like, Earth came about 100 years ago because God said, yeah, great time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying desperately as we record to Google something about this guy in the top hat, and I just can't find anything on the internet about it.
Maybe only we saw him. Maybe he's not even part of this episode.
So was this just a dream we all had?
I think he just came to my workplace.
Oh no. You need to get out of there, girl.
Becca, are you making a discovery?
I'm making a discovery.
Ooh.
So according to one of the transcript sites, the image in question is the Doctor dressed in an Edwardian bathing costume and straw boater, which I did not.
But isn't his face covered?
Yeah.
Are they sure? Are they sure?
It is. But here's the thing. It's in response to him saying, like, you're not an amphibian. And he goes, oh, I'm not, am I? And then that pops up. So I guess that's what that was. But that was not clear, especially to someone watching this in 2024.
Now, this does actually kind of track with something that I was thinking about, because whenever you're looking at old black and white movies and shows, there's all the interesting things that they have to do because to the way that they color stuff so that like it looks okay in black and white. Like people, if they wanted you to
Right.
look like you were wearing red lipstick, they put on green lipstick. And the Addams Family,
Yeah.
their entire like all the set was pink and stuff. I don't think they were doing that here. And I think that's why it looks really bad. I don't think anyone told the people in England that they needed to do that. And so I think they were doing it to the color that they thought it should be. Because there's so many times like that where I cannot tell what you are supposed to be looking at. And the Doctor looks dead 90% of the time.
That's true. And also, like, I don't, maybe this is just because I wasn't alive during the early 60s, but like, I don't think of swimsuits as involving hats.
Well, that's your problem. To be fair.
It really is.
Yeah, it's about accessorizing,
Yeah.
Becca.
You got to finish out the look with a jaunty hat and a full face mask.
Especially you're very pale. I Becca, please promise me the next time you're on the beach you wear a hat.
Yeah.
You're so pale.
It's very true.
We're going to go to the beach and I'm going to bring 8 hats for all of my very pale friends.
I did want to say that, like, one of the bits of my methodology of this, because this is another random number generated thing, because it takes place on an alien planet in an alien civilization with aliens. There are no human beings except for the ones who travel with the Doctor. And just like we were talking about eyebrows and haircuts, and like that's nowadays for current Doctor Who, I would use kind of like prosthetics or any kind of like weird makeup to be like, okay, these guys are aliens. And like this time I only had their weird eyebrows and funky hairdos to go off of. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that means they're aliens. That's what that means.
It's hard to be sure, like, is it aliens or is that just what fashion is now?
Have humans just evolved where their eyebrows are 3 inches higher?
I think they paint them on. Again, I think they're drag kings and they paint them on, but they don't know about the like you do that so that you have more space for eye makeup. Because they had no eye makeup whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they just hadn't finished getting ready when they started their revolution.
Oh, that could be true. And it's just like a little like character piece for them of like they're just waiting for peacetime so that they can go back to finishing their makeup.
It was actually really deep and thought out the way they did that. They wanted everybody to think that they were in the middle of getting ready.
It doesn't help that they pick actors with like very pronounced brow ridges and very deep set eyes, which is like enhances this is where your eyebrows should be. Here's where we've put your eyebrows today.
Now, I want to say these drag kings, and again, I was trying, but it's very hard for me to watch these episodes and understand what's happening. Were they the ones who were sad that their culture stopped exploring and everyone was happy? Is that the plot of this episode? Do you know the plot of this episode, Becca? Becca, why are they sad?
I mean,
If we need to, I can get Ben here.
we might need their expertise. I didn't glom onto that. Most of these classic episodes I've only seen like 3 times, and because there are a lot of them, some things don't stick.
Okay, we did watch it literally yesterday, though. Like,
That is true.
Do you know why they're revolting?
Because their eyebrows are so hideous. So of course they're revolting.
Hey.
No, I'm just kidding.
Mandy?
One moment. I will be right back.
My understanding was that the Morocks came to the planet and like took it over because they were taking over a bunch of planets in the galaxy or whatever. And the Drag Kings were just like peaceful inhabitants that got overrun or something.
Oh, okay. Maybe one of the museum guys is sad that his planet doesn't
That might be it.
want a revolution anymore.
Okay, so I was trying to do a funny bit where I was going to leave and Ben was going to come back pretending to be Mandy and explain to us what the main conceit of this was, like what the major conflict was.
Yeah.
They don't know either.
Okay, great.
I don't think anybody knows.
That's great. I mean, the main problem is that the doctor and his companions see themselves in an exhibit, but that's them in the future, and so they have to catch up to that timeline so that they don't get stuck in the exhibit, but then they get stuck in the exhibit anyway, and then also they lost the catalytic converter for their car, and that was the problem the whole time, or something, right?
Oh yeah, this episode, much like the previous First Doctor episode we watched, involves just a piece of machinery getting loose, and I definitely thought that the Doctor was going to explain how buttons worked for another 3 minutes again.
No, instead the doctor's going to explain how directions work. And he's going to explain it was like, oh, well, we went right when we got here, so we should go right again, and that's how we do it. And then Barbara's desperately trying to explain, no, we have to reverse it, so we have to go left this time because we're in different orientation.
They did spend a lot of time being lost in hallways, but in their defense, that does take up a lot of time.
Yeah, and basically all of Classic Who, there's a lot of lines that are something along the lines of like, I'm getting so turned around. All of these hallways look the same because they're using the same hallway set over and over again.
When does Doctor Who discover yakety sax? Because I feel like this episode would be greatly improved if they spent all that time going through the hallways with yakety sax and just like, so they'll zoom. And I mean, the colorized Dalek did a really good job of that. Of like, I feel like that they did a lot of like the montage and you're going around, and it just needs like the bit of like they open one door and another one opens another door and they close that door and they open up a different door, just that kind of stuff to spice it up.
They really do need to do more of that. They played a little bit with that in Love and Monsters in 2006, but not enough in my opinion.
It took them till 2006,
right,
to watch a Scooby-Doo episode.
When is the Scooby-Doo re-edit of Doctor Who coming out, Becca?
It's all them like taking the mask off, and it's just Davros every time. It's just oh my god. Well, there is that 12th Doctor, the World Enough in Time, where the Master takes off his mask and it's John Sim under there, and then we're like, a 2 Master episode. So I would say that's it.
You're just trying to get out of editing Doctor Who because you've barely done any of it.
That's so true. I mean, we're only on, this is episode 10?
Laser, you were going to say something that you love.
I love the replicator on the TARDIS. There are so many buttons involved in getting a glass of water. And when she gets the doctor a glass of water, it's the smallest glass with the smallest amount of water that anyone has ever had. He takes one sip of it. It's like broken, but then it goes back in time and isn't broken. And he acts like it's normal because he's a real garbage man who likes to confuse his friends. But it's if I asked somebody for a glass of water and they brought me half of a cup of water, I would be so angry.
They should have picked the milk one, because we know from the previous times we've seen it. There's two options. There's water and there's milk. We don't know what milk.
That's a great
oh
question.
gosh, we didn't talk about what creature gives milk to the TARDIS replicator.
It's the guy with the hat, I think.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the easiest answer is whoever, like, it's the leave a penny, take a penny. Like, he has so many companions. One of them could donate some milk. Amy had milk to spare.
Now, are you talking, when you say that, Mandy, are you talking about the milk that Amy produces or has with her?
I don't know what did Amy carry milk with her?
Okay, so you were talking about milk that she produces. Okay, great.
She
great.
had a baby.
I don't know who Amy is. I'll be perfectly honest. They all are kind of the same.
Well, she has a baby,
Okay.
and that baby is a wife.
Oh, a wife baby. My favorite kind.
Yeah.
But that's all spoilers.
That's all spoilers. I don't know what you're talking about either, Mandy. Who's this Amy? Oh, we did see Amy very briefly in episode 2. I forgot.
Oh, Amy Pond. I understand now. I remember her from, she goes to bars in Hollywood.
The only other thing I have written down is the moment when Ian and Barbara are eavesdropping, like, really effectively. And then at one point, Ian goes, "Did you hear that?" And Barbara goes, "Yes, quiet." It's like, of course we heard that. We're eavesdropping. That's the whole point of this exercise. Shut up, you stupid man.
I did not like the way Barbara tried to get new Susan to stop sneezing by putting her fingers fully in her nostrils. It really stressed me out. But yeah, I guess they were trying to be quiet. Really, I don't know how you stop a person from sneezing, though.
Yeah. I don't even know if that would work.
Yeah, I only know how to get people to sneeze. I don't know how to get people to not sneeze.
Sure. What's your trick?
To get people to sneeze?
Yeah.
Tell them to look at a light.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's an episode of Taskmaster where they try to get people to sneeze, which I would have been really bad at until I started taking COVID tests, and now I know how to get myself to sneeze, which is just to stick a thing up my nose into my brain cavity until I sneeze.
Yeah. Works every time.
Do it.
Yeah. I do it all the
Or
time.
I guess biting through a sweater would also work.
I love to bite through a sweater. You know me. I like that they had a knife the whole time and Ian just kind of didn't think of it. What a series of things that has happened. I appreciate where Doctor Who comes from, and I know that you're at the very beginning of time. So I just wish you the best, and I'm so glad I don't have to make this podcast.
Yeah.
I hope you feel good about
the
choices you've made, Mandy.
Yeah, I remember when Becca was pitching this, and it was like, "Oh, I'd be interested in doing this, but you should ask Laser first." And then you said, "Oh, I'm too busy." And by too busy, I think you meant I don't want to do this.
When I realized I would have to re-watch classic Doctor Who serials, I will say this: it's not a good way to watch Doctor Who, but it is the correct way to watch Doctor Who.
Yes.
So
we got one.
I realize now that the reason that I saw this is because we watched the first 48 hours or the first 24 hours of this in a live stream.
True.
And this episode was there. And I did not absorb any of it then or now.
It's not absorbable.
No.
Laser Weber
That's
what
me.
what are you up to these days? Where can people find you and all of your projects on the web internet?
Yeah, check out the Double Clicks albums. We're great. Check out Laser the Boy albums. Check out Teaching a Robot to Love. Generally, if you want to know what's going on with me, go to lasertheboy.com and join my email list, and I'll tell you about events and music and art and podcasts and stuff that I'm involved in, because I'm just, doing stuff, but it's pretty random at this point.
Great. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. You two are a delight, and I enjoyed learning about all of the rocks in this episode that did not exist.
Definitely a fan of less rocks.
Less rocks, more eyebrows. 2024.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Stitches in Time. Music by Becca the Matrix Archivist. Art by Mandy Akendo. Logo by Ben Padden. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky at Who Stitched.
I'm looking forward to never seeing Vicky again.
Who's Vicky?
The new Susan.
Susan 2.
Bring back old Susan.
Should we call her Tuzan?
Oh, I like Tuzan.
Make companion Susan again.
I look forward to your red hats at Galley 1 this year.
MCS MXA.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah. I'm going to storm the capital of Wales, because that's where they make it.
Right.
That's true. That is true.
But these are amphibious creatures. You're not an amphibian.
Oh, I'm not, am I?
You can't do something funny before the room tone. That was so hard. I had to be so quiet.
I can do whatever I want. That's my secret.